There
Okay.
we go. This is it.
This is it. Tell me about this game. Why did you pick this game?
Because this is the game that got me over 1,200. Again, it's not the best. You know, we looked at a previous game where I made a promotion with the Queen. Arguably, it's a game I could have won. This is a game, well, that's a game I could have won and I lost. This is a game I should have lost, but I won. It was on time, so I can't take full credit. It was an amazing checkmate sequence or anything like that. But the fact that I won on time with the time that I had, I'm sure Rick, you'll say, wow, what a man. What a change, man.
Yeah, exactly. You had only seconds left, and your opponent ran out of time. No, I'm proud. And as I said to you, I'm looking forward to receiving messages from you that you're really upset because you lost on time in a
On
winning
time.
position. Then I say yes. Now he's really a chess player.
Yeah, of
Okay,
course. Yeah.
I'm only joking. Let's have a look. Um, Played on the 6th of May 2025. Your rating was 1199, one step away from your goal of 1200. And you were black, and he played e4, e5, and your bishop e7, the antidote against the quick knight g5 and all sorts of
Yes.
sharp stuff against the f7 pawn. Now knight g5 is not possible. And after knight f6, you're ready to castle, and then also f7 will be well protected. Rook e1, d6, h3, castling d3, and knight a5. And I was ready to say, well, why not bring the bishop on c8 first in the game? But then I checked this, and the number of grandmasters have also played knight a5. So who am I to say that knight a5 is not a good move? Of
Yeah.
course, you're just threatening to win the bishop pair by taking on c4.
Yeah.
Um, the main move here, by the way, is knight b to d2, developing, because if you then take, you can take back with a knight, and um,
Develop.
you've developed another piece. That's how the grandmasters play it. But he played b3 without developing another piece, making a pawn move, and you took. He takes with a b pawn. So, the difference is that in the grandmaster variation, this knight is already developed, and now it is still at home. That's the difference. That's why
Yeah.
this is not an optimal way to play. Bishop e6, all minors developed. Knight c3, c6. You want to push in the center. Rook b1, b6. The pawn was hanging. a4, and now, yes, you want to push in the center. That's why you played c6 to prepare that. But after d5, you overlooked that something is falling off the board, and that's a pretty crucial pawn, a central pawn, which is worth more than other pawns.
So is that a backward pawn now or not? Because we've still got f7.
It's not a backward pawn, no. No. As you say, it's
Because
still a,
we've got f7. Because we've
yeah,
got
and
f7.
yeah, exactly. But it is a
That's
hanging
what.
pawn because he can take it, right?
Yes.
So how if you want to play d5 and you want to make sure he doesn't take the overprotected pawn on e5, what what preparation move can you play here to still be able to execute your plan with d5?
Do I move the knight to push? I know you don't push f pawns, but f6. Do I move the knight that?
Where do you move the knight to? Sorry.
There's nowhere. No, I'm just speaking out loud, really.
Oh, and then f6 to protect e5. Yeah, okay. I was thinking of this move.
No, I was going to look at that queen next, but I was going to move it to d7. But yeah,
Yeah, but then it's
that's
not
annoying.
protecting e5. On
Yeah,
c7 is protecting
cool.
e5. So my plan then would be to play a rook to d8, maybe the other rook, I don't know, and then push d5. And then
Yeah,
I have my plan, but I'm not losing my crucial central pawn.
yeah. No, brilliant. No, thank you. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah,
Okay, so your idea, I like your idea. It just tactically doesn't work because it hangs a pawn. Knight takes e5, and suddenly, yeah, it's a pity. That is a big pawn that you lost there. Suddenly, you'll have, without that pawn, he has all sorts of ideas of expanding with his pawns, and suddenly he gets something going there. You took on c4. He took on c6 in between. Nice move. Attacking your queen. And taking here with check. So you have to recapture. And now he could have taken on back on c4, but I like his move, d4. Building that strong pawn center. And he would have loved to have still have a pawn on e5 now. Rook a d8. And he played e5. I would probably choose d5. Attacking your bishop. And then the dark squared bishop and these squares, having your pawns then on light squares and your dark squared bishop, they complement each other nicely. But he played e5. Your knight jumps into d5. That gets swapped. And suddenly your bishop is a nice piece, Light squared bishop is a nice piece. And this piece is not so great. So you have compensation for the pawn that you're down. And he did not have to allow that. He could have played d5 instead of e5.
Yeah.
Queen g4. I like king h8 because I guess here he might be threatening bishop h6. And then the g-pawn is pinned. And with king h8, you prevent bishop h6 ideas. Do you remember that you played that move because of that bishop h6 threat?
Yeah. So because I always play g4 with that move, now I've seen them do it. I move my king.
Yeah, I like the move. Still, white is doing well with his extra pawn. Bishop g5. That's also a bit annoying, isn't it? It's a skewer, and f6 is not really what you want to do. We talked about it before. When you get attacked on, you don't really want to make pawn moves in front of your king. But in this case, you probably had to because otherwise you lose material. But things are falling apart really quickly here.
You sure? You sure I won this?
He takes f6, attacking the queen with both rook and pawn. So you don't have the time to take back on f6. So queen f7, rook
I think that's a
e7.
nice move.
Which one?
The queen to f7. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
if he takes, we check pawn, and I take bishop some. Well, I don't know.
yeah, but he played. In fairness to White, he plays really well here. Rook e7 is a great move, and suddenly you get completely overrun on the king side. And this is a monster pawn. The rook is very strong. These two guys are great. Before you know it, you get another guy in the game. He's attacking you with everybody, and you are completely lost here. But Aran is a fighter and plays queen g6. And the easiest way to win here is just f takes g7 check. It's just a simple
14.
fork, you know?
Sort of course.
Simple chess. King g8, make a queen, rook takes, and you're a rook up with white. You just want a rook. But he took on g7 with the rook, also good. But f takes g7 check was easier. Wins a rook straight away. Queen takes c2, looking for some counterplay, at least attacking the rook on b1. Rook c1, nice move, protected by the bishop. Again with the tempo. Queen e4. Queen g3, doesn't want to swap queens. I understand that because he's attacking you. He wants the queens on the board. Rook g8, fighting like a lion. But yeah, here also he can just take on g8 with check. King takes g8 and then f7 check. And he's attacking your rook, which is unprotected. You see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so shouldn't have worked, but he played f3, attacking your queen. Queen f5, bishop h4, rook d to e8, improving that piece. King h2. He doesn't see how he can finish you off. He's still very much better, but you're still kicking and screaming. Queen d3. He brings his queen into your position. Queen back. And again, f7 here. Just forking both rooks. But he didn't see f. He did like to push his pawn. You know, pawn on the 6th rank. You always have to see what happens if you can put it on the 7th rank, because the pawn is a potential queen, of course. He played rook f1, rook c8, attacking his queen. Not only that, but
Any
you're now behind your pass pawn.
yes.
Queen g3. And I guess here it's time to push that pawn. Aran, c4, c3. Go forward, but you didn't do that. You played rook c2, e8. So it happened we've seen it today a few times. When your rook is behind the pass pawn, you have to have a very good reason not to push that pawn.
Yeah.
Queen c7, rook c8, and here he can just take on a7, and white is still winning. We played g4, leaves his queen hanging on c7, and now we get some tactics, and now you're coming back in the game. g4 is a bad move. Queen c2 check. That saves the queen with a tempo. Rook f2, attacking the queen again, but now you just took a rook and the queen, so you've won a rook back, although he can take on c7. So smoke is cleared. Well, one more move, you can take a pawn. And we have rook and bishop and 5 versus rook and bishop and 4.
Yes.
Unfortunately, white is still winning here. His pawns are more dangerous than yours. This one is under lock and key. And these guys are dangerous, more dangerous than yours. f7. Finally, he recognized the strength of that pawn. You have to go in front of it. And, oh, here's a nice variation for white that he could have played. He could have played d5 here. Again, with the idea of pushing that pawn. That looks a blunder because you can take it, but then we have a mate in 1.
Bishop to d4.
Bishop d4, and suddenly you're checkmated. That's a pretty checkmate, isn't it?
Rick, can I ask where? I know we've talked about bits. Where did it go wrong for me? Like I developed well. Okay, the pawn I've left hanging. Is that where we went wrong? How did he just suddenly develop this attack? Did my pieces not in the game? Where did it all go wrong, man?
Yeah, I think it definitely went wrong with giving up that e5 pawn. It's not just a pawn; it's a pretty crucial pawn. And in fairness to White, he played it really well after that. Um, and he was just quicker. He went forward because that e5 pawn was missing. He went forward on that side with some powerful moves. He really pushed you back, and um, that's what happened. And that can happen. That was a real big crucial pawn that you lost there. And then White played it
Rick,
really well.
do I accept this win? Do I say, you know what, it was just a bit of a fluke? Do I accept the win? I don't know. Do I say, well,
Of
look,
course,
at
you
the other
accept the
game we
win.
played?
You accept any win you can get. If he doesn't put the ball in the net, and you keep kicking and screaming, and in the end you win the game, you say thank you very much. I'm happy to take the game. Sometimes games that you don't deserve to win are the sweetest.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
So what time am I on, and what time is he on?
Yeah, you are both low on time now, so we should not be critical of each player, of both players. I don't
But
have the timestamps here,
okay,
but you were getting really low. So let's see what happens. For eternity, we will document how you reach 1207. King g7 and bishop e5 check. You had to play king g7, otherwise bishop e5 would have been checkmate. You played it anyway. King g6. But here's not so easy anymore. He should really have pushed that d pawn earlier. He plays king g3. You played bishop d1. Yeah, well, we shouldn't really be critical. Both players were under a minute here. h4, and now you just take on f7. You have won that very dangerous pawn that on a number of occasions could have delivered the winning blow, but now it's off the board. And we get to a bishop endgame, bishops of opposite colors. You have the light squared
Same
bishop, he has the
pawns.
dark squared bishop.
Yeah, same pawns as well.
Yeah, same pawns, and it's about equal here.
And look, I know he played better and he could have put me away, but for what it's worth, I haven't done too bad to get back in the game, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you've been fighting well, and that's it. When you're fighting hard, you give your opponent a chance to go wrong, and he just took too much time to. He couldn't find the winning blow, and that's why you're back in the game indeed. C2, one square away from queening, but bishop b2 defends that queening square, and because you have opposite colored bishops, you cannot get control over c1, and that's why this is a drawn position. You took a pawn, and here you can take on a4, I guess, and then suddenly you have, if you take here the pawn on a4, then suddenly you have three of these, and even with
Yeah,
opposite colored bishops, that might be then you have a chance to win. But after king e5, you play b5, a takes, and you have only two pawns, and that is not enough. The bishop on c1 is able to control those two pawns. With three, it's more difficult.
of course,
King
yeah.
f4, b4, king g5. And black is not threatening anything. Unfortunately, you have two pawns so close to the promotion square, but because you cannot get over the dark squares, there's nothing for white to worry about.
Yeah.
Although the king d6, and if you get your king into up the board, then you will be able to beat the bishop. But you played b2 here in total time trouble, and of course he should just have taken it. Bishop takes b2 is an automatic, but he didn't know what he was doing anymore. Took on h7, and now you win. Here, king f7 is mate on the next move,
Yeah.
but you played queen f6. You just pushed him through he was lower on time, and you just made moves till he ran out of time,
Yeah.
which is legitimate way to do it. It's a cruel game, but after queen g6, check, he overstepped the time limit. It's mate in two anyway. You can make a new queen if you want. Everything wins as long as it's not stalemate. And you had a rating of 1207.
Yeah. Just about. There you go. Bloody hell, Rick. Like, some of the stuff, like, my head's hurting because there's so much stuff, so much quality.